Train your English listening skills at the B2 level. Let's begin the training.
I'm sorry to hear that you didn't get the grades to get into university. What are you going to do now?
I'm not sure. I can take my exams again at the local college, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. Maybe I'll take a vocational course there instead to learn the skills for a particular job like accountancy or business studies. At least if I pass that, I can go straight into work.
So, how's Ginny settling down? It's always difficult when they start school. My son Timmy took weeks to get used to being away from me all day.
Oh, she's fine. She loves it, especially learning to write. She doesn't miss me at all. I'm the one with the problem. I really miss her being at home all day. But after all, it's the law. She has to go.
I found this evening course in photography at my local center. It's 2 evenings a week and only costs £150 for the term. You've always been interested in photography as a hobby. Why don't you come too?
Oh, I did that course last year. It's really good. I'm planning to take a course on setting up a website so that I can display all my photos. It does seem strange, though, to be learning something new again after so many years.
I think it's really useful for them to start early. I know it can be expensive, but it's worth it because they already know what it's like to be with others in a class when they start school.
That's true. In my case, it's not just the benefits of socialising with other children. It also means I can go back to work. It's a pity I can't get a free place for my son, though I don't have to pay very much, thank goodness.
Well, my daughter is off tomorrow to start her degree course. A whole new adventure in a new city. I'm nervous, but she's really thrilled about it. There's a week for the new students. It's called Freshers' Week, when they find out what they need to know, join clubs, and get used to being away from home, and then the course starts the week after.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure she'll be fine. After all, she's 18 now, and they all have to make their own way in the world sometime.
I'm a bit worried about my son. He's not doing very well. The thing is, he needs to understand that it's not like his last school, when he did everything in the same class. He has to make sure he knows his timetable and gets to the right classroom on time. He keeps getting to class late and not doing his homework.
Don't worry. It often takes time for them to adjust to the idea of having more responsibility. I'm sure he'll do better when he settles down.
My son passed all his GCSE exams and wants to go to university in 2 years' time. We can't decide whether he should continue at his school or go to that new college near our house. What do you think?
Well, the college has taken the best kids from the local schools since it opened 2 years ago, and almost all of them have passed their A-levels and gone on to university. So I think it's really good. Also, it makes them feel more grown up when they go there.
The British education system is not the same everywhere in the UK. Scotland has its own system, and while Northern Ireland has the same basic system as England and Wales, there are some differences. Because of this, I'm going to focus mainly on England and Wales. The system in England and Wales is divided into 3 main levels: primary, secondary and tertiary. In the first part of my lecture, I'll talk about the primary and secondary levels up to the age of 16, and in the second part, I'll discuss the options between 16 and 18. Then, finally, I'll talk about tertiary or higher level education. As in most similar countries, education at school is compulsory between the ages of 5 and 16. Pupils can leave school at 16, but they must stay in an approved learning environment until the age of 18. This can be full-time education, a job, or volunteering combined with part-time study, or an apprenticeship, sometimes called a traineeship. Before the age of 5, children can attend nursery, though they don't have to attend any educational institution at all before the age of 5. However, when they reach the age of 4, they usually start school in an early class called reception, which helps them to adjust to regular schooling. Primary school runs from the ages of 5 to 11. The first part of primary school, between the ages of 5 and 7, is traditionally known as infant school, and this is where children learn to manipulate numbers, read and write. Traditional infant schools offer an informal education using child-centered techniques. The second part of primary school, from 7 to 11, is known as junior school. The education system has undergone various changes in the last 30 years, most notably with the national curriculum, which was put in place in 1988 to specify a set of core main subjects that all school pupils have to study. These subjects have to be assessed at 4 key stages up to the age of 16. At certain stages, the children take exams known as Standard Assessment Tests, or SATs. These tests are designed to check the pupil's progress against the national standards, as well as to provide teachers and parents with an assessment of their school's performance. Key Stage 1 assessment comes at the age of 7, when the pupils do their first teacher assessments. Key Stage 2 comes at the age of 11, when the pupils are ready to leave primary school. Although teachers assess their pupils' progress throughout primary school, at the end of Key Stage 2, unlike in Key Stage 1, pupils have to take SATs. Key Stage 3 is reached after the first 3 years in secondary school, when the pupils are 14. However, this time the students are assessed directly by the teachers and not by sitting national tests. These assessments help teachers, students and parents to decide which subjects the students should choose to prepare for Key Stage 4, when they take exams which will help decide their future career choices. Unlike SATs, these assessments, known as General Certificate of Secondary Education exams, or GCSEs, are not primarily designed to assess progress or give schools an official statement of their performance, but to provide students with their own personal qualifications. The national curriculum defined a set of compulsory subjects. These are subjects which the law requires all students to study. There are also some subjects which pupils and students have to study at different stages. For example, modern foreign languages start in primary school and continue up to Key Stage 3, after which they're optional. In secondary school, students take citizenship from Key Stage 3. When they enter Key Stage 4, pupils are allowed to make more choices. For example, all learners have to take history and design and technology up to the age of 14, but then they can choose whether to continue them or not. Now I'd like to turn to educational opportunities between the ages of 16 and 18. There are various choices open to pupils of this age. The first thing to decide is whether to start work or to continue studying full-time. Of course, starting work means going straight into employment, although young people aged between 16 and 18 will still need either to study part-time, as well as doing their job, or join an apprenticeship or traineeship scheme. For those who want to continue studying full-time, there are 2 paths, academic and vocational. Academic qualifications, mainly advanced level exams, known as A-levels, are taken by students aiming for university study. Vocational qualifications, such as those offered by the Business and Technology Education Council, or BTEC for short, prepare pupils for a specific profession, such as engineering or computing. Most of those who wish to continue academic studies will go to the 6th form in their school or a specialist 6th form college. Alternatively, they can study A-levels at a further education college, also known as an FE college. Either of these routes will take students to university. On the other hand, those who wish to study a vocational qualification will typically go to an FE college and, after qualifying, will be ready for employment. There are other options for those who want to start work at 16. Since 2015, young people between the ages of 16 and 18 must continue to learn in a specified learning environment, in addition to working for an employer. The first option is to work for an employer and study part-time for a vocational qualification, such as a National Vocational Qualification, or NVQ for short. The second is to apply for an apprenticeship or traineeship. With apprenticeships, young people get to work with experienced staff and gain job-related skills. They earn a wage, although this is typically less than a regular employee, and get to continue studying part-time, usually 1 day a week. They study towards a qualification related to the job they are doing, and their apprenticeship can last anywhere between 1 and 4 years. Almost always they are offered a permanent job by the same employer at the end of their apprenticeship.
So, Amanda, you want me to help you with your application. Let's have a look at the UCAS website. Do you know what UCAS stands for, by the way? It's the University and Colleges Admissions Service. Have you set up an account with them yet?
Yes, I did it last week, but I haven't completed my application. One thing I need to know is how many universities I can apply to.
Well, first of all, you need to see how many offer the course you want. Remember, you'll want to choose the universities which have the best reputation. But you need to have some kind of backup in case you don't get into your first choice. What are you studying?
I'm doing A-levels in biology, chemistry and psychology, so I'm thinking of taking biochemistry.
Okay. Well, there are 7 good choices I could give you. Apart from Oxford and Cambridge, Imperial College in London is very good. And York is also a good possibility and easier to get into.
Okay. I don't think I'll get into Oxford or Cambridge, so I can include York and Imperial College.
Okay. I think you should go for those 2, plus 3 others, because the maximum number that you can put on your application is 5. How about Durham, Sheffield and Exeter?
Okay, I'll look at those. Another thing I'm not sure about is how to make a good assessment of myself and my skills and abilities. I've always found that difficult.
You mean your personal statement? Well, just be honest. I can help you phrase it so that it reads well, but you need to note down what you want to include. If you can do that by Friday, we can write it up together.
That's great, thanks.
Well, that's what I'm here for, to give you the advice that you need. After you've completed your application, I can add the reference and your predicted grades before sending it to UCAS.
Great. After we send it in, what happens next?
Well, UCAS processes your application and sends it on to each university that you've chosen. Then the universities assess it and decide whether to make you an offer. Remember that your predicted grades are only provisional, which means they're not confirmed until you get your actual results, so you need to pass the exams to actually get those grades. Usually any offer from a university will be a conditional offer. That means they can't give you a definite offer because it depends on your final grades. Then, when your exam results come through, they get sent to the school here and the universities.
Do I have to contact the universities to ask them about my application?
No, they'll contact UCAS about their offer. If you meet the predicted grades, they'll usually confirm the original offer, but if not, they don't tend to renew it or change it.
Oh, I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, what can I do?
Well, if you don't get a place at any of your chosen universities, you can take a year off and try reapplying next year. Alternatively, you can try to get a place through clearing. This is a way universities fill remaining places on their courses, and it's a second chance for students to get into another university if they didn't succeed with any of their chosen ones. It's a sort of safety net, but I hope it doesn't come to that.
Well, thanks for your help. I'll complete my application and then come and see you on Friday.
Glad to help, Amanda. See you then.
Hi, Terry. Come in. What can I do for you?
Hi, Dr. Harris. Well, I just wanted to check on some information about the course, as it's all new to me.
Of course. What do you need to know?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure exactly what a seminar is for. We never had them at school. I know it's to discuss things together, but is it more than that?
Well, yes, you're right, it is really. You see, at university we typically have lectures, with about 100 or 200 students in the lecture theatre together. It's a one-way form of learning. The lecturer sets out the topic and discusses it, and you take notes. Then you need to review your notes following the lecture and also do some extra reading.
Oh, and where does the seminar fit in?
It could come at any time once you've had some time to think about the lecture. When you attend the seminar, you should have some of your own ideas to discuss with the other students, usually up to 10 of you. It allows you to discuss the topic, exchange ideas, and prepare for your assignments.
Okay, thanks. And what about tutorials? Are they like seminars?
Well, usually we try to space them out over the term so that we can have a chance to check on your progress and how well you're doing with your assignments. It often depends on when your tutor is available, and at times that might mean you have 3 weeks between tutorials. Normally, every term you should have 1 at the beginning, then usually another 4 spaced out depending on your program, and 1 before the holiday. So that works out at about 1 every 2 weeks.
Right. And what about assessment? How many exams do we have to do?
Well, that varies from course to course, but generally we focus on continuous assessment more than exams, though exams are, of course, very important too. We tend to assess you over the first 2 years through your assignments, which is over half of your overall assessment, usually 60%. And then most of your exams will come in the final year.
Okay, I'm happy with that. I get really nervous before exams. And talking about assignments, how long should they be?
On all undergraduate courses, students tend to write about 3,000 words or so, but it varies depending on the question. However, there's a minimum of 2,000, and while there's no upper limit, you should be careful that you don't write too much, as a lot of that might not be relevant to the question.
So I should aim for between 2,000 and 3,000 as a rule. There's one last thing I wanted to check about assignments, and that's references. How many do we need generally?
Well, as your course is international finance, you have to use banking, finance and news sources, as well as academic sources. Ideally, you should have around 10 references for each assignment to show that you've read widely. But we expect a minimum of 5 sources, which are academic journals and books. From the other sources, we'd generally expect 3 to be used.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harris. That's cleared up a lot of things for me.
Glad to be of help, Terry. See you next week.
So, Jessica, congratulations. You got a first-class degree. I always knew you could manage it. What are your plans now?
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without all your help. Well, I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about the possibilities. I'm not sure if I want to teach or go into research, or even find a position in a company, perhaps.
Well, anyone with a degree in chemistry will always be in high demand. Have you thought about teaching?
Yes, but don't you need a degree in education to do that?
Well, many teachers do that, but of course you have to be sure you want to teach before starting your degree course. In your case, though, your main route into teaching would be to do a postgraduate certificate in education. That's another year of study, and you'll learn everything you need to know about teaching, while also getting teaching practice in your subject at local schools. You could study that here if you want.
That sounds like a good idea. I'll think about it. But I feel I have more studying to do in chemistry before I think about teaching it.
Then you could always take a Master of Science degree. That will allow you to specialize in a particular area of chemistry. But if you want to teach in secondary schools, you won't need to have such a specialization. It's up to you.
Yes, I see. Actually, I've often thought of doing a research degree.
That would be a very good idea. But remember that it will take you at least 3 years to complete that. It would probably be better to do a master's degree first and then transfer onto a PhD course. It also costs a lot, and you may need to fund yourself while you're studying. Have you thought of going straight into work?
Yes, I have, but I'm not sure if that's the best choice for me.
Well, you could try doing a company internship for a few months. A company internship is a chance to work in a company without actually being an employee, but possibly with some pay. It'll give you a chance to develop your career and also learn more about your subject specialization in a commercial environment. After that, you may well get a good position in the company. We have some good commercial contacts for internships here.
That might be the best option, but I wouldn't earn much to begin with, would I?
No, you wouldn't. You could try getting a permanent job now if you want. There's a graduate fair here in the city every year, as well as in other cities around the country. You'll have the chance to meet all the leading companies in the sector and discuss opportunities with them.
It's worth considering. Oh, well, I have a lot to think about. Can I meet you again next week?
Of course. Just send me an email and let me know when would be a good time.
In your opinion, what is the effect of private tutoring on education?
I think we have an education system where those who have lots of money do better than those who haven't, because many students can't afford private tutors. The tutors teach things at a higher level than the school curriculum, so many students see regular school as a waste of time. That's not really fair. So the government should change the law to limit the cost of private tutoring so that it's more equal for everybody.
Is private tutoring more important today than it was in the past?
Well, I think that private tutoring is certainly more important now than in the past. I mean, in the past we only had tutors for English lessons, as it was hard to find people who spoke English well enough to teach conversation in schools. But now we have tutors for everything, even tutors who teach 3-year-olds how to pass interviews. Perhaps things have gone a bit too far now.
What more can governments do to reduce the need for private tutoring?
I think that governments must make changes to the curriculum so that schools cover all the subjects that are usually taught by private tutors, like English conversation, art, music, and other things. If we can get these subjects taught more in schools, then students might not need to go to private tutors to learn them.
How can we encourage more parents to teach their children at home?
I know that parents are very busy, but they at least have free time at the weekend. This doesn't mean that they should spend their weekends making their children memorize lists of vocabulary, but perhaps if parents make time to do things like drawing pictures, reading, or listening to music, then children will not need to go to private tutors for those sorts of things.
So, in conclusion, we can say that despite the difficulties we had at the beginning, we managed to complete the program over the 3 days without any further problems. In total, 10,000 attended the 3 days, and feedback suggests that the events were exciting and produced true champions, especially the athletics events. Next year, we'll have more money, so we're going to add new events to increase the competition and participation levels.
It's clear then that the events didn't go as well as originally planned, so we will have to rethink our arrangements for next year. Clearly, a large tent in the college grounds is not ideal for an event of this type if we're hit by bad weather again, as we were with this year's event. This caused a lot of problems with the preparation of the dishes and the display of the produce from different parts of the world. It also meant that visitors couldn't really get a chance to try everything on display. As a result, much of it went to waste, which is something we have to avoid next time.
One of the main issues that we had with this event was that the main attraction, Paul Simmons, had to cancel at the last minute, as he'd been suffering from a serious throat infection for a week and hadn't managed to recover in time. As a result, we had to find another act, and managed to get Nikki Monroe at very short notice. She performed magnificently. The audience loved her, and that saved the festival, I would say. Everyone agreed that she has an amazing vocal range.
The most successful aspect of the event was the variety of products that were on offer. It's wonderful to see students being so creative. We saw practical applications that'll make significant developments in education and even business if they go into production, as well as very entertaining ideas, especially the robot football game. I'm pleased to say that our college team won.
I'm sure you'll all agree when I say that the quality of the talks and performances over the last 3 days was very high. The talk given by the top novelist, Henry Peters, on effective plotting and characterization was excellent, and the audience will have learnt a great deal to help them with planning and writing their future works. What's more, the quality of verse produced in the workshops was very high, and we hope to run that again next time with greater overall participation.
While there were some wonderful and fascinating works on display, I felt that there wasn't enough variety. Unfortunately, this was because of the limited exhibition space we had. This meant that we could only have one room for portraits and another for landscapes. We hope to extend that next year into other forms, such as still life and abstract, but we'll have to see what rooms are available. We also hope to install clay ovens next year to give our students the chance to create their own pottery and display it for the visitors.